I would like to welcome you to the 2025 session of the Scalable Cities Café. For those of you who know the series, this one is on empowering communities, and we have two great experts here from the city of Vienna and from the city of Stockholm from ElecriCITY that will share with you all of the knowledge and wisdom that they have gathered on how to empower communities, and share also all the experience that they have gathered over the past years on piloting solutions to how to engage citizens in their respective cities. My name is Veronica Surna. I will be guiding you through today's session. Please also don't forget that you can engage with our speakers. You can also engage with the topic by raising your hand or sharing comments in the chat, or also then by answering our Slido questions that we have prepared for you. Now, I hope you have a nice cup of coffee after lunch. Sit back and enjoy the conversation, and don't forget to also discuss with us. First, I would like to explain a bit more about who we are and what experts here also represent. So Scalable Cities is an initiative of the European Commission that is there to actually help pick up the solutions that were piloted in the cities and projects in this area of smart cities and communities, and help them scale up and replicate across Europe. That is why we are also here today to share this knowledge that has been gathered in the lighthouse cities. In this case, it was in Vienna and in Stockholm, and help you also then learn from that and hopefully replicate these solutions and initiatives and projects in your own cities. The Scalable Cities is a city-led community, and our community currently counts more than 28 projects and 142 unique cities. Some of them were lighthouse cities, some of them are fellow cities, and some of them are also positive energy district cities. You can see that the knowledge is really balanced across all of Europe, but we are of course looking at that even beyond that. That are part of the Scalable Cities communities are sponsored or have been granted since 2014. They're financing by the European Commission and are continuing to 2024 and 2025 with more focus on building positive energy districts. The cafe today will talk about the role of citizen engagement in urban transformation, and of course we have here the two leading experts on citizen engagement and innovative governance models. You are here not only because you want to listen to them, but also to exchange with them. So I know that some of you are themselves working in the cities and are piloting other solutions on citizen engagement and any innovative governance initiatives and models in your cities. So if you have something to share, don't hesitate, and also raise your hand or share your knowledge with us. This is an open community that we are building around the Scalable Cities Cafés to exchange ideas and really engage in discussion. So we really would like to welcome you here and make sure that you can engage with the experts and with each other. As I mentioned, this is a series of cafes. Today we are talking about citizen engagement in urban transformation. We will be also talking about climate action in the next session at the end of February, but you can check out also the previous sessions on everything from innovation procurement to energy communities or urban digital twins that are all on the website, and you can go through all of these recordings as well. A couple of housekeeping rules. Please note that I know that some of you are using Read AI to have the transcript, but the session is recorded. So those of you who are not comfortable with being recorded, please, I would have to ask you in that case to now leave the session, because the session will be recorded. It will be placed on YouTube and on the website of the Scalable Cities, which is under the European Commission. So we have to comply with the GDPR rules, but everything has to be also then placed publicly online. Also, the information that you are sharing here will be shared publicly. And don't forget that we have the Q&A session. And in that Q&A session, we also have a Slido. For those of you who have their mobile phones, please either scan the QR code or join us at slido.com and enter the number with the hash key so that you can enjoy the conversation, but also contribute to it. And I really am going to ask you to voice your opinions, because we want to hear from you as well. But without further ado, I'm going to now stop talking too much. I would like to introduce the two experts for whom you are actually attending this Scalable Cities Café. We have with us today Jörgen Lööf, the CEO of ElecriCITY Innovation based out of Stockholm, and Bojan-Ilija Schnabl, who is the head of the unit for strategic projects and international affairs at the city of Vienna. I'm going to now give the word. I'm going to now give the word to you, Thu, and let's kick off the discussion a bit with how do you actually define citizen engagement and the new governance models in cities? Can you tell me a bit more about it, Bojan?
Well, hello to everybody. So thank you for inviting us, because it's so important for us to share the European knowledge and to work on the European dialogue. So for us in Vienna, evidently, you would imagine citizens' engagement is really, really crucial in any urban transformation, and there's a lot of effort put on it. So I don't know if I can share all the detailed information, but just imagine that for us, citizen participation goes from inclusion, mere information to inclusion, co-creation, and we aim also at having as much as co-decision projects or possibilities for citizens, though with, and this is important too, in partnership with a highly skilled and highly ethical governance. So citizens participation is not replacing good governance, it is an essential part of it. And yeah, that is, I would say, really, there's a philosophy behind and a long history and a tradition behind that.
Thank you, Bojan. And Jürgen, do you have any kind of definition of the citizen engagement? And if you can compare the traditional governance approaches and effective engagement practices, how would you compare those two?
Yes, so I represent ElecriCITY in Hammarby Sjöstad, and we have been working with housing association for about 10 years, with about 18,000 people living in this housing association. Just to give you an understanding of what a housing association is that you actually, the people living in a housing association building, own the house together. Meaning not only the roof and the walls and the elevator, but also the energy system, which means that you can do things together. So what I would say, what differs a citizen initiative from the municipality's view is that we engage people in practical projects in a real environment and also with real money. So the people living in Hammarby Sjöstad and in these housing associations are investing with their own money, and they have been investing now for probably 20 to 30 million euros in etc. So it's a real bottom-up initiative, and we also do it with a method we call eco-governance, which means that we're working in collaboration with academia, big and small companies and authorities. So we do this together.
Thank you. And I would really like to hear a bit more after about the practicalities of the project and really go more into detail with your experience. Now, can you please tell me why is it actually that citizen engagement is so important, or why is this bottom-up approach that you have just mentioned so important? How does it work and how does it empower the communities? Jörgen, please.
Well, I mean, a city or a municipality has control over the properties it owns, including infrastructure, such as streets, squares, and parks. But this also includes public housing, and usually it adds up to 20 to 25%, which is the municipality's share of the economy. So basically, cities have no control over business, private homes, or private consumption, and also the way we transport ourselves, which all accounts for about 75 to 80% of the local economy. So it's essential that they include citizens and companies.
Indeed. And Bojan, in the city of Vienna, do you also think it's important to include all the citizens into the decisions?
Absolutely. Well, I think there's first, just come back. There's one also the basic approach, how you consider citizens' participation. So we I think aim to develop the idea of partnership with citizens, and let's give it for an example. When we renewed the school within the Smarter Together project, which is one of the smart city projects, we involved pupils, teachers. We made surveys and shared this information with architects, but we obviously wouldn't expect pupils to make the decisions on highly technical issues and technical solutions. So there's an element of culture behind what Jürgen says, what I might say as a background knowledge. So what you consider as a participation. For us in Vienna, also an aspect is, which I would like to add here, because it's about the practicality of what does it mean participation, is how you organize it. So we are developing a whole range of institutional solutions in order to enable to different target groups and different goals a real effective citizen participation. So we have, for instance, installed an office for participation in the energy department, because we are focusing now on the energy transition. And here we have to develop a whole range of activities combining highly technical solutions and different stakeholders or citizens, like tenants, housing associations, or even house or flat owners. These are different target groups which need different ways of communication with governance in order to jointly further develop the solutions and the energy transition. I would like just to mention the one urban renewal program we're working on, Vienna Plus. It is a 10 years program, a follow-up of Smarter Together. Where we, on one hand, are funding innovative projects for energy transition made by stakeholders, and on the other hand, we are funding grassroots citizens' action. So, and the last element I would add here is that, for instance, in the whole area of circular economy and innovative technology, you need the participation of citizens, because they require a different kind of behavior, different kind of contribution or participation in order to really use these new technologies or make this circular economy happen.
Yeah, thank you. I really think that we can go a bit more in depth about what kind of communities and how to involve them when I'm going to ask you about the specific cases in the city of Vienna and in ElecriCITY in Hammarby Sjöstad. But now, for all of those that are in the audience, This is a question for you. So please go to Slido and let us know what aspects of citizen engagement do you believe have the most impact on urban transformation? So where are the parts that you find them to be the most important? Is it in building trust and collaboration with your citizens? Is it in raising awareness and educating them about the key elements, be it mobility, be it energy, be it any of the ICT solutions, climate renewal, etc.? Or is it that we actually improve the implementation of the policy on the ground? Or is it that it helps actually the local ownership and encourages taking of more responsibility of your community and of your surroundings? And maybe I'm going to ask also Jörgen and Bojan to comment a bit on what we are seeing on the screen, because it sounds like there is a consensus towards building trust and collaboration. Mm-hmm. How do you see that, Bojan?
Well, absolutely. Trust is one element of a societal vision, how you cooperate, how you develop common goals. And we need this trust. We know overall in Europe, we have this issue on trust, which is a political reality visible in the elections and globally, whatever is happening. And still, therefore, we are very much working on that in Vienna through a variety of grassroots institutions or institutions highly funded by the city of Vienna, in order to make possible this communication, everyday communication, everyday developing of common projects, small projects, which give tangible results in all different kinds. And obviously in Smarter Together, in our big smart city projects, we played this idea of high-level communication for all projects, which was really interesting, which was kind of innovative, new for us, to make it not only in the nice ways, so in information, but really to engage different target groups, like tenants in refurbishment buildings or blue-collar workers. I will make this example later, eventually, of our industrial site, Siemens Mobility, where they really contributed also to the huge solutions and the development, even the competitiveness of this enterprise. So they're really on all different levels work to be done.
Jörgen, what is your take on?
Well, I sort of agree on what's happening here. We're always talking about our campfire. ElecriCITY has turned into an event organization, and we're meeting on a regular basis. And we drink beer and eat pizzas, and we share experiences. And we therefore, learn from one another and from people that we bring in, and therefore we can run these practical projects. So I would completely agree.
Yeah, and I'm glad that also everyone in the audience is in agreement that building trust and collaboration are the most impactful. But let's look at the concrete examples. I know, well, Jörgen, you have just mentioned beer and pizza, and I know that in Smarter Together there was also some drinks and food involved when it came to citizen engagement. And I would like to hear more about practical and real examples of these community-driven urban initiatives. Whether they involve beer or not, that I will leave that up to you. But can you also talk us through what has happened? How was it effective? And what were these efforts that made it really particularly effective and impactful in the community? I'm going to ask Jörgen first, since he mentioned the beer, and I like the beer and pizza example a bit more.
All right. So when it comes, we're working on both energy, transportation, circular economy. But if I should then start with energy, since our buildings were not as well performing as they were told to be when we moved in. It's a very new neighborhood, right? So after we've lived there for about 10 years, we figure that these buildings are using much more energy. So we started asking all the housing associations to have an energy manager. And I turn out to be the energy manager in my house. And I'm not an engineer, but I got an education from a guy called Willy, who's the foremost energy expert in Sweden. And he did an echo drive with me. And I then followed him to the rest of the buildings in Hammarby Sjöstad, where we were teaching all these new energy managers on how their building worked when it comes to the energy system, but also what did not work properly. So we had a list after all these echo drives, which was then, carefully studied and taken care of, basically. So on top of that, I've been running energy meetings since I then got hired by ElecriCITY, the first employee there. I've had these campfire meetings now for about 10 years where we share experiences, I told you. And we also do joint procurements of energy investments. And if we have bigger volumes, the more rebate we get on these investments, of course. And then finally, we also went into sharing and storing energy in energy communities. So we're into virtual sharing now. And this has led us to that 50% of the housing associations in Hammarby Sjöstad have 50% less bought energy, which makes them much more resilient. And they're now actually prosumers. So there are some hard facts there.
Thank you. And I would like to hear also from Bojan, and from the perspective of a city, how did you actually implement some of the activities and initiatives in the city of Vienna? And if you can also compare with how it worked in ElecriCITY, is there anything that could be more successful, or is there anything that you can also point out as particularly effective?
Well, may I share one example which is so important in the history of the city of Vienna? All our participation, way of how we manage participation, or how we try to improve participation and the level of participation, goes back to basically some rebellious grassroots initiatives in the early 1970s in order to safeguard old buildings, safeguard Art Deco metro stations, and autonomous youth centers. And the city was then able to transfer this in institutional answers and created, for instance, the urban renewal offices. So this is a 50 years tradition in the background, which is constantly built up and worked on. So it's not one solution from one day on the other. You have to also develop all the understanding of all the stakeholders and the organizational cultures of the stakeholders in order to enable citizens' participation and to make them at the end the solution that are necessary. I think this is so important. Like we invited even a rebellious artist, Friedensreich Hundertwasser, to build the first municipal housing building. All this philosophy was transferred in the regular institutions of the city of Vienna, and the social housing now is based on this philosophy. The same goes now. Within Smarter Together, we also had to refurbish municipal housing. So we obviously would communicate, use as a tool, the institution that is already there for communicating with inhabitants. You might know, or you might not know, Vienna, the city of Vienna owns 220,000 municipal flats. It's a quarter of the population living in these flats, but obviously they're not the richest ones. So this is a specific target group. We have this institution Wohnpartner, so every communication partnership would be channeled through this. Through this organizational learning that we build up on Smarter Together, we succeeded. Well, we succeeded. Basically, it's a success of the city of Vienna that integrated all the knowledge and from then on, basically, all the experiences also in the technical area are integrated in the municipal housing construction and renovation. So we use this pilot project really to develop the dialogue among stakeholders. I think this is so important beyond the mere technical solution that is basically found on internet. But you need the ethics and the culture, organizational culture, to ensure this solution. And I think eventually, because I mentioned the Siemens Mobility site, the first step was to agree on the strategic level, obviously, to work on the project and the global goals. Then in the second step, we would agree with the management, on the management level, to define the specific target group community to work with. And these were the blue-collar workers. And those were involved in the decision-making process on the solutions to be defined through Smarter Together. And within that, they developed such a good collaboration, management and blue-collar workers, that they identified further needs and further activities within the program or project Smarter Together, which they implemented and which they continued to implement after the end of the project. So this is also an element, how you use a lighthouse project or a innovative project for a long-term result. And this goes always only through organizational culture and this culture of dialogue amongst participants. And indeed, we had huge CO2 reductions and technical results, and after the project too, even more.
Okay. Thank you, Bojan. I'm going to drill a bit down on some of these elements that you have just mentioned as well. Before we said that one of the biggest impactful things in citizen engagement is build up trust of the citizens or the stakeholders. And you've also mentioned that it is very important to have a dialogue among stakeholders. Would you say that that is the key to that makes these efforts particularly effective? Or are there any other aspects that you would like to mention when it comes to what is it that made this initiative particularly stand out? Bojan.
You're asking me such a complicated question.
Yes, I'm asking you. Well, I would like you to give me a not very complicated answer, and ideally give me a 3-keyword answer if that makes it a bit easier.
Well, it's piloting projects, which means that you are really open to innovation and you share the values on that. So vision and values are so important at the start. Then develop the co-creation also on the strategic documents which we need in the city of Vienna, for instance. So we are working on them together. So we are, for instance, now working on a joint strategy for democracy in the city of Vienna, in participation, co-creation with the citizens. You need an institutional framework, like participation is nice, but you need like an issue to work on and an institutional framework. And what is very important, because at the end of the day, for instance, big, huge technical innovations or the energy transition won't work without partnership of all the stakeholders who have the keys and the money to implement, like housing associations. You need a development of the understanding of what are the key issues. And this is a very long process. So for instance, we have like this with the Wohn von Wien constantly working on this dialogue and understanding of values. We had the IBA Wien, Internationale Bauausstellung, for several years, which developed the dialogue among stakeholders in order to be able to integrate citizens' needs and citizens' requirements, so that they have a result then in their everyday life.
Okay, thank you. So if I'm going to rephrase what you said, the important elements that made it particularly effective were the dialogue among the stakeholders, the vision and the value, and open to innovation and co-creation. Would you agree?
Perfect.
Now, Jörgen, if I was going to ask you the same question, if you have any particular key elements that made it really effective in Hammarby Sjöstad to have really the eco drive successful and to have the energy managers successful in their efforts, what were the key elements?
I mean, first you have to attract the audience that you want to engage, right? So tonality is key, I would say. Tonality, how do you attract these people? Well, then you have to look at the subject, right? And give them an offer for each meeting, basically. So, and the other thing is profitability. I mean, the housing associations are run as economic associations, which means that they're just into running them efficiently when it comes to economy. So if you can propose projects that are profitable for these properties, then you'll have a chance to break through.
Yeah. Thank you. And maybe we can also clarify for some of those that have come a bit later. I've seen there is a question from Emilio in the chat. Who are the tenants of the housing that we are discussing? So Bojan has mentioned that 25% of the housing is owned by the city of Vienna. Is that correct, Bojan?
A quarter of the population lives in municipal housing. Yes, and this is yes, rental housing without a time limit. So once you're in, you can stay on however long you want.
And Jörgen, I did not get that information from you.
Well, housing associations there are 70% of the people in Hammarby Sjöstad, the city district that I represent, are living in housing associations. And in general, in Sweden, it's about 2 million people, and we're 10 million people now in Sweden. Sorry. Most of them are actually living in small houses and semi-detached houses. That's about 5 million people, and then 3 million as tenants. So it adds up to that number.
Okay. Thank you. Emilio, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much. It does and it doesn't, because I think we should characterize this from the very beginning to try and understand what each one's experience, because it is totally different if you must deal with a stock where you find 85% of owners. Then if you have what can be a driving force, like having 25% of tenants owned by you, so to say, or by your own organization. So I think it is, Veronica, I think it is very important to start with this characterization to really understand how it works in each case. Right. So yeah, this is why I was asking it, because you can have a driving force which is very powerful, or you may not have it at all. Or you may need to have different things. I'm trying to strike up in the city of Valladolid in Spain right now. I'm working as a mission city ambassador, and I have a very long and difficult experience on how difficult that is with communities, typically buildings, working with owners, 100% owners, and in a community. And it is difficult. So to strike that up in a city has very specific nuances. So.
Yeah, indeed. And I think Bojan wanted to
yeah, he went out and in again.
Yeah. No, he's there. Bojan, you need to unmute.
Yes, yeah, I'm back. I'm sorry, I just had a complete technical problem. Yes, you're completely right, Emilia. these is, I mean, we in Vienna also have different target groups. So for instance, I just gave in the, we developed different programs for different target groups, how to communicate with them. So house owners or flat owners are completely differently, have to be approached in a different way, though one is the broader vision of the city and the broader way how we communicate, which falls in. We, after Smarter Together, after this project, which in Vienna was very much focused on social housing, and in Vienna, 45% of the citizens have a long-term socially secured housing, 45%.
Mhm.
So we developed a specific program which led to a one-stop information shop for housing refurbishment called Hauskunft. I should find the link in a minute. In order, especially to target the house owners, flat owners, condominiums, in order to motivate them. And obviously, according to the feedback, we had to change and adapt the subsidy and the funding schemes. So there's always this dialogue also, which is so important with different groups, and then also for the city to react. So therefore, my understanding of citizens' participation is so much in partnership, because it depends on how you react then on the input, on the wills of the citizens. You have to take over and find solutions. But obviously, I know private housing is a completely different thing. That's why we have developed a new subsidy scheme, a new regulation on refurbishment and decarbonization, for instance.
Yeah, there is one key thing here, and that is the role of the city. Should the city play a substantial role in a situation where most of the homes are privately owned? And so this is a question here. You know that the rental stock in social housing in Spain is almost non-existent. We are working on it at national level to make it increase and so on. But you know, 99.5% of social housing in Spain is privately owned, which is very specific of Spain, I would say, but that is the case. So now the question is, should the cities play a role in coordinating that evolution towards, you know, the climate neutral city, where most of it is owned by privates? And obviously the answer is yes, because it cannot afford not to play a role there. But that also has very specific characteristics.
I mean, I think just shortly, it depends on which level. If you have as a governance, possibilities of regulations, of lawmaking, of subsidies and funding decision, then you have tools, tools to add, to contribute to the goal. If you have a common societal vision, then yes, too. So that's why I introduced at the start this element of vision and values at the start. I myself worked for 7.5 years in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So the first question was always, where do you want to go as a society? If you are not willing to go anywhere, well, we don't have to talk. If you are willing, then we have to make some decisions and work on some process and dialogue, which then leads to solutions. So our Hauskunft Information Center was something new. We realized the guys in Munich, our partners, had big issues on refurbishing private housing, obviously. So we had to take over this big issue because we have a huge housing stock which is in private hands. And then, yes, I think as a city of Vienna that we have to be an active government. We are not a laissez-faire tradition.
Thank you very much. And I made this to actually have a small bridge to the next question, because I like the comparison between Vienna and then what happens in Stockholm and what happens in Valladolid. We want to talk about how these solutions and how the initiatives can be actually scaled up. So first and foremost, I want to talk with our experts, but also with you. That's why I already posted the question on the screen about the most critical factors when it comes to scaling up citizen engagement activities in cities. And then Jörgen, if you can comment on what in your opinion is the most critical factor, and whether you actually agree with what we're seeing is developing on the screen.
I agree on what we're seeing on the screen here again.
Okay. Why?
Well, you have to sort of get them engaged, right, and listen in and so forth to what they're up to and their problems, of course, locally. So I agree completely.
And Bojan, what are, in your opinion, the most critical factors for scaling up?
Well, scaling up, I think, well, obviously we need an inclusive decision-making process that is so basic, but it depends on which level what you're talking. So in order to enable that, we need a strategic level decision-making of the city of Vienna. So we have the Smart City Framework Strategy, which now is called Smart Climate City Framework Strategy. It gives us the legal framework to develop a joint democracy strategy and joint participation strategy. They will all be developed in participation or in dialogue with citizens and in co-creation, obviously. But then you need the governance institutions to put in place this participation, because participation sounds for me very theoretical. It must be either on very grassroots level, but there you need somehow the possibility to join in as a citizen, and you need some partner to talk to. Otherwise, for me at least, it's completely erratic. So no, I believe you need institutions too. And what do you need more? Funding, obviously, because we have to enable that. So it's not an either or answer for me.
Okay, thank you. I'm very glad that you actually mentioned funding, because I was quite surprised to see that nobody finds adequate financial and technological resources to be critical to scaling up. So I find that a bit amusing, but of course we also need funding for scaling up. Jörgen, if I'm gonna drill a bit more on the scaling up and on the lessons learned that you have from ElecriCITY, what are the key elements if someone from, let's say, Malmö or some city, even from Valladolid, for example, came and wanted to scale up the solutions that you had in ElecriCITY? What would you say were the critical factors that they need to put in place in order to make that successful?
Education
Of whom?
as I said before, right? We have in Spark, so we have now energy managers in our houses. We have transportation managers. We have what's it called now? Waste managers, etc., etc. So we're constantly having events, and we're bringing in companies so we can learn more about new innovations, etc. But having somebody taking responsible over, a specific idea in a house, and constantly being educated about that, and then that can pass on to another person, of course. But education is key. And then also, of course, bring in, the quadruple helix now, the companies, the academia, the authorities to build projects around this, so you can actually take it further.
In terms of education, would you also say that it is important to educate the city, the political level? Yeah.
Yes,
How, or
without a
which
doubt.
one?
I mean, often the cities that we are working with, I find that they look at citizen as an abstract phenomenon. They don't bring them in on on the level that they deserve to be on. So it's very simple, I think. You just work on people's motivation, and in order to get them there, you have to work on education to begin with, right? So we know what we can do.
Yeah. And one more thing that I would like to ask you, also with regards to what Bojan has said and what we discussed before, because I really find this peculiar that still nobody is voting for the financial and technological resources. Bojan has mentioned that funding is extremely important. In your case, in the introduction, you have also said that profitability was one of the key factors of why people are really engaged in it. Could you maybe expand a bit more about how you went about it and what is also important when it comes to profitability and scaling up?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to profitability, I mean, all the investments we do in our housing associations, they're privately funded by the people that lives there. So if we put on a heat pump, and of course that's profitable in comparison to whatever we had before, right? And the same thing goes with charging at home. It's much more lucrative than charging on in the city, right? In a public space. And you can go as far as urban farming that we're now looking at putting it in our houses, in our garages. And, you know, a salad would cost half the price. So we're always looking at if it's profitable or not, because then we can actually engage the housing associations.
I might add, in general, in Vienna, we are funding all refurbishment. About a third of the costs are funded by the city of Vienna. A third would be financed through loans, long-term loans, and a third by the money the tenants or the owners would have in their pocket through the every month's payment. So in this issue, we don't see housing as a question of profitability in its essence or a market value. I mean, there is a part of the housing which is on the market, free market, and it gives us big headache because it's not efficient. We need to provide affordable housing to the citizens in Europe, which is a key issue. So I wouldn't make so much the discussion on profitability, but on how to fund, how to find the funding this, for instance, refurbishment, because when we're talking about participation, it could be all kinds of participation. It's also the gardening in the street, which is like you would put plants around a tree and you would take care of it because you would contribute to a well-being and a quality of life in the city of Vienna. So this is a whole other way, but still even that we would think about. Is there some funding for that or parklets in the street? Then you need engaged citizens who take care of that. But for the housing and housing energy refurbishment, even for the private sector, we are thinking about how to fund, how to support funding, because you would have like generational issues. Elderly people having their own house, they are eventually not interested in refurbishing because they think they don't need it. A heat pump, and that is another element I would add, is not, I mean, should decrease the costs. But we have in Vienna Plus, I have the link over there, one project, which is like how to make how to use it in the best way, or how to make the hydraulic issues work in order that this heating system works perfectly. So there's a whole learning process behind. And this is a project we are funding as the city of Vienna because we want people to learn. So you're learning, what you're talking about, learning is really important, and the funding is important too. And the partnership is important too.
Yeah, Jörgen, please go ahead.
May I add, of course, Bojan, we would love to have some funds as well when it comes to urban farming and so forth. It's just that it didn't happen yet. So we had to do it on our own. But I would love to have some funding from the city of Stockholm to do urban farming and what have you. Yes.
And maybe I can also add that maybe the profitability can be also in the form of benefits or savings, not only in monetary profitability, but also in other effects.
Yes.
Yes. I am conscious of the time, and I see that Emilio has another question. Before I will give the word to you, Emilio, I would also like to ask others on the call whether there are any questions for our experts, and or do you have comments? Do you have anything else to share from everyone else as well, please? Now is the time. Well, while others will think through their questions, I'm going to give the word to Emilio, please. Go ahead. And I would also really encourage everyone else to line up and have other questions for our experts.
Thank you, Veronica. Thanks, Jörgen and Bojan. No, I was commenting that if you can go back, Veronica, to the Slido, you can see that actually there is one vote for the financial part, and that is mine, because I changed my vote. Because obviously, I mean, this answering one, I mean, all of them are so extremely important, and the importance varies a lot depending on circumstances. But I mean, the financial part is key, because now in Spain, very few people perceive the enormous business it is to renovate their homes. When they do it, they realize that's probably the best investment they've done in their lives. And right now, they get 80 to 100% subsidy, and even with that, many people do not perceive the business in it. So this is funny, but it is clear that people, and Jörgen was mentioning education. Obviously, we need to change this perception of the good business sustainable building is, especially if you own that home, but also obviously because of reasons of better quality of living, etc., etc. But my first vote was on strong leadership and clear vision, because I think this is absolutely key. And I didn't answer the inclusive decision-making process because many citizens do not care about being included. They prefer not to be included in an inclusive process. They just want to not to really get involved. So this is also a question of education. You need to you should want to be included in something that is good for your home, for your city, but that most often that doesn't happen.
May I just add one element which I think is is important to me because of my background for 7.5 years OSCE, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and European Parliament and so on, is that we should not, participation is part of the good governance, is an essential part of good governance, but it should not replace the democratic institutions. I, as a voter, hand over my vote, my vote to democratic institutions so that they do their work. I will not. That's why sometimes I, as a citizen, will not want to participate everywhere because I don't have resources, I don't have time, I don't have skills and knowledge and not willingness. But that's why I have democratic institutions and the parliaments and local parliaments and so on. And then there are issues where I want to participate. And sometimes these issues are, and there, my city of Vienna gives me lots of opportunities, different institutions where I can dock on and match with the right people to contribute or to give my input and to hope that it'll be implemented. I think this is really, I think, something on European or world, global level, this discourse that participation would be at the place of democratic institutions. Completely, this is really not something I would personally see as a solution. We need our democratic institutions, our parliaments and our regional parliaments and so on to do their work. The trust in governance is very important. That's why in Vienna we're looking lots of things about education, also in the governance, also in the stakeholders, and also with the citizens. So it's a triangle of partnership where everybody would contribute. And obviously, then only you can get a solution, because many technical solutions are not feasible without the citizens or the technicians. Even in the refurbishment, you need so much skills and willingness to do. I last time really had an encounter with a social housing provider. She was fantastic, but it is the ethics that drove her innovation in energy transition solution. It's not only the money in the background. It was really her ethics and the values she was sharing and the respect towards the tenants she would work with. So we have to respect the citizens really deeply. That's fundamental in this dialogue. And then this ethics and trust develops.
Thank you, Bojan. Jörgen, what is your take on that?
Well, actually, I just wanted to give a last little thing here from my side. If there's something that the cities could fund, then it's a citizen-run house for sustainability, where you can have a constant campfire going, right? And educating people in energy, transports, and circular economy. So funding a citizen-run house for sustainability is my idea, making it happen.
We have that in the Gebietsbetreuung Stadterneuerung Urban Renewal Offices, or Agenda 21, as many other institutions. But indeed, this is where we try to find the matching point with the citizens and as a governance.
Excellent.
Yeah. Great. If there are no further questions, I really would like to ask for some kind of a wrap-up keywords and recommendations for everyone. We've already heard just now one from Jörgen on the recommendation to create a citizen-run but funded by a city ongoing campfire. And we heard from Bojan that it already exists in Vienna. What are other key elements or key recommendations that you would have? First Bojan and then Jörgen.
Other key recommendations besides funding, strategy, vision, and values. I think there's not much more to say. Institutions. I mean, there's a mix of activities and points that have to be tackled. Obviously, on the long run, and in a view of developing a process of dialogue. It's not a one-point solution. It's not one campfire that will solve the solutions, but it's a lot of lots of activities on different levels, where obviously the ethics would bring that you include as much as possible citizens wherever possible, and still be a responsible governance.
Thank you. And Jörgen?
Yeah, we're constantly participating in projects with other citizen-led initiatives, and we're happy to share, the practical projects we've been working on now for 10 years. And so, yeah, feel free to contact us if you would love to, learn and share thoughts. Now my dog is coming in here.
Okay, thank you so much to our experts, and thank you to all of you for being an amazing audience. Thank you for the questions and for your engagement. If you would like to hear more from our experts, we will share then also all of the contact details, the recording of the cafe, as also of all of the previous cafes, is going to be placed on the Scalable Cities website, and you can also follow us on social media, on LinkedIn and on X for further updates. And don't forget also for the next cafe that is taking place on the 26th of February. Thank you very, very much. You've been a great audience, and thanks again to our experts for sharing their knowledge. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.